الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم ولا فهم لنا إلا ما فهمتنا إنك أنت الجواد الكريم. Dear brothers and sisters, auditors of CII Radio, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is your brother Ben Halim Abdurrauf in our 5th episode of Living on Qur'an. May Allah Ta'ala show us and guide us how to practice His book, how to understand His book, and may this book be our defender of Day of Judgment and our guide in this life. So we are talking of Surah Baqara, and Allah has given us 5 stories where Allah brings dead people back to life. In Surah Baqara, the last one is the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam. And I was telling you how complicated this mission Allah has given to Ibrahim alayhi salam. How can you catch 4 birds of different types that are living in the trees, that are flying in the airs, and you have to catch them alive? So you can make a film of it, of what kind of things Ibrahim alayhi salam is going to invent, is going to build to catch those birds. And once you catch the first bird, you have to keep him in a cage and feed him until you get all 4 birds together. So that must have taken some time and lots of effort and energy to get those birds, and then killing them, cutting them, mixing them. That is an easy thing, that is an easy job. But putting those birds on top of 4 different mountains, that is a big job, because those mountains don't have roads to go to the top, and it is just mountains in natural state. You might get 1 or 2 close mountains where people go for hunting or for an outing, but then the 3rd mountain, the 4th mountain is not going to be an easy thing. Some mountains you cannot go up to the top and back down in one day, so you'll have to spend the night somewhere. You need to take some water, some food with you. Sometimes you go somewhere, you're stuck, you cannot continue, you have to go back down and go around the other side to find a way up. Anyway, that was a big job for Ibrahim alayhi salam. Once all that was done, he will stand up in the middle of the 4 mountains with the 4 heads of the birds and call them in the name of Allah, by the power of Allah, come here. And all those parts of birds will come and will stick back together and take their heads back and fly back into the air. And Allah shows him His power. And why all this? Why not just slaughter a sheep and cut him to pieces and see how Allah will bring him back? Because the more you suffer, the more the lesson will be strong, and you will never forget that lesson. You will never forget that lesson. And this is why we say that the pedagogy, the teaching of Allah Ta'ala, the methodology of teaching of Allah Ta'ala is hard. That means when Allah gives you a lesson, it is a lifetime lesson. It is a lesson you will never forget in your life. So Ibrahim alayhi salam will never forget all that effort he has done to catch those birds, to put them in 4 different mountains, and how easily in a few minutes all that came back to zero, as if he had done nothing. And this is to show him the power of Allah Ta'ala. So these 5 stories are here to show us that Almighty Allah is above anything. His power has no limits, and so that we believe in Him and we ask Him for help, and we never dare to disobey Him. We must also fear Him, because if we provoke His anger, what will happen to us? Can we resist the punishment of Allah Ta'ala? Can anyone protect us from what Allah, if you disobey to Allah, do you think that your wealth or whatever you have, or people that will help you, your family or whatever, is going to protect you from the punishment of Allah? Nothing. Allah Ta'ala is holding ourselves. Allah Ta'ala is holding our health. Allah Ta'ala can give us punishment through our health, through our wives and children or husbands or belongings or whatever. Allah can do what He wants of us. So we are in constant need. We are in constant need of the acceptance, the rida of Allah Ta'ala. We are in constant need to please Him and to worship Him. And anything we need, we should go to Allah before going to any creature. What creatures have limited power to help you out of your problems? Allah Ta'ala, He has the power to solve your problems, and He has the power over those creatures that you are asking for help. So this is one great lesson of Surah Baqarah. And I am asking you, when you read these stories, in Surah Baqarah, when you read anything in Qur'an, try to imagine and live the situation. For example, if a dear person, if you are abroad and you go and your wife or your husband, your wife writes you a letter, say, oh my husband, I miss you so much. So when you read that, you hear her voice speaking in your mind. You are just reading her letter, her writing, but you hear her voice speaking in your mind. And she says, now your baby is got big, he's walking all over the house, he's starting to say, daddy, daddy. Oh, now you're crying, and you see your baby crawling around the house and you're crying. You see how much some words can affect you. Also, if it is bad news, that will also affect you very much. So the words of Allah Ta'ala must affect us in this way. And when we hear these stories, we must live them as if we are seeing them, seeing those people coming back to life. That man who was killed and who rose up to show his nephew that he's the one who killed him. Those 70 people with Musa alayhi salam that were struck by lightning, and Allah bring them back to life. Those Uzair alayhi salam with his donkey, after 100 years they have become dust, and Allah Ta'ala brought them back to life. And he was seeing with his own eyes how his bones come back together, and all his body comes back together. And then the story of thousands of people that Allah killed and brought back to life. And finally the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Ya Allah, make us know who you are, make us know your greatness, make us know your wiseness, make us know your power, make us know your mercy, so that we glorify you and we don't forget you, and we work every day to please you, and we never dare to disobey you. Ya Allah, make that every day of our life will get us closer to you, will increase our knowledge on you, our love to you, and our fear to you, and our hope in you. Ya Allah, prevent us from a day that will take us away from you, where we will forget you and disobey to you, and follow the way of shaitan, and follow in the trick of shaitan that is taking us away from Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. So this is one first lesson, one big lesson of Surah Baqarah. These 5 stories in one single surah, where Allah Ta'ala brings dead people back to life. Ya Allah. If we have belief and confidence in Allah Ta'ala, Allah will show us His power. As Allah Ta'ala says, وَمَنْ يَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ. The one who puts his confidence, who has faith in Allah, Allah will be sufficient for him. Nothing will be able to harm him. Nothing will be able to overcome him. So the more we believe in Allah, and the more Allah will help us, and we will see with our eyes the power of Allah Ta'ala in this world, and that will give us more iman to follow His path. So now we're going to a second subject in Surah Baqarah, which is the construction and the purpose of this surah. And I call it the logical construction of the surah. What does this mean? This means that very often when we read Qur'an, it speaks about a subject, and then another subject, and then another subject, and we don't see any logical in this subject. We don't see the link, and we don't see the construction, and why does it go from this subject to another subject? We don't see the link, and it is not possible that Allah Ta'ala is speaking to us with no link. It's saying just different things all put together. So that's not possible. There must be some logic, there must be some hikmah, some wiseness behind this. But most of the time when we read Qur'an, we don't notice and we don't understand. So we have to stop on those points and think and meditate and look and search to understand why Allah is saying this, and then He's speaking about something else, and we don't see any link between these two different subjects, and then another subject, and then another subject. That is not possible. There must be some link and some wiseness. So we're going to discuss about the subject through the example of Surah Baqarah. This is the longest surah of Qur'an, and Surah Baqara is speaking about many different topics, different subjects. So what is the link between all of this, and what is the logic of this surah? So the factor that is going to give us the whole logic of Surah Baqarah is the context. What is the context of Surah Baqarah? That means that in Quran you have asbab and nuzul, the causes of revelation. That means something happens during the life of Prophet ﷺ, and according to that event, Allah will give some comments in Quran and give some lessons and give some orders, and that is called asbab nuzul. What happened in the life of Prophet ﷺ, and after that situation, these are the verses that came to comment and to give new laws, for example, or any kind of comment and mentioning that situation. This is asbab al-nuzul. But when I'm talking about the context of the revelation of Quran, it is broader and larger than that. That means the whole situation, because Allah Ta'ala gives these verses to educate Sahaba and to give them a new, like we can say, a new course. When you go to school every day, you get new courses. So that new course is taking account of everything you have learned before. So this is how Quran is coming to educate them and orientate them in their lives. So what is the context? So the Quran, most of the time, there is not a particular event that is mentioned. So the verses that have asbab nuzul are few. There are quite a bit, but they're minority inside the Quran. But the other verses, even if there is no particular event that is mentioned, but it is always taking count of the context. So what is the context? When did Surah Al-Baqarah be revealed? Surah Al-Baqarah was revealed when Prophet ﷺ arrived to Medina from Hijrah. When Rasulullah ﷺ came to Medina, there's a first surah that was revealed, that is Surah Al-Mutaffifin. وَيْلٌ لِلْمُطَفِّفِينَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ عَلَى النَّاسِ وَيْلٌ لِلْمُطَفِّفِينَ. Surah Al-Mutaffifin means the cheaters, those who cheat when they weigh for people, and when they're selling or buying, and they put more for themselves and they put less for people. When Rasulullah came to Medina, this practice of cheating in the business was in the market, and Rasulullah, Allah Ta'ala gave these verses to stop that bad habit. So this was the small surah of Wailul lil-Mutaffifin, and after Wailul lil-Mutaffifin, it is Surah Baqarah that was revealed. So if we just put aside that small surah, we can say that Surah Baqarah was revealed when Rasulullah arrived to Medina. And this is why in the beginning of Surah Baqarah, Allah divides people into three categories: the believers, the kafir, and the non-believers, and the munafiqeen, the hypocrites. And Allah Ta'ala speaks a bit about believers and a bit about kafirs, non-believers, and speaks a lot about munafiqeen, about hypocrites. Why? Because since Mecca time, there were believers and non-believers, but hypocrites did not exist. And this is when this new category of people that are not believers, but they show they are believers, whereas in their hearts they are non-believers. So it is a new kind of category Allah is going to describe them, describe their mind and describe their deeds, so that Muslims will understand what kind of people these are and will not be tricked by them. So what happened when Rasulullah came to Medina is that in Medina there were 2 tribes of Arabs and 3 tribes of Jews, but the Medina itself is fundamentally Arab people, and these 2 tribes were fighting for decades. And just before Rasulullah reached there, they had an agreement to unite themselves and to choose one king for the whole of Medina and to stop their wars. And they chose Abdullah ibn Ubay ibn Salul to be the king, and they even prepared his crown to crown him when Rasulullah arrived, and everybody followed Rasulullah, and this project of king of Abdullah ibn Ubay ibn Salul was left aside. So what did he do? So he could not fight Rasulullah openly, so he pretended to become Muslim, and he was waiting for the opportunity to throw down Rasulullah and get his kingdom. And inshallah, we're going to continue this topic in the next episodes. May Allah Ta'ala help us and accept us. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.